afternoon or good evening. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. Today I'm going to talk about some of the new features that we have released in the May 20 release of MassMailer. There are a lot more features that I would have enough time to really speak about all of them, but I will perhaps touch base maybe two of those features today, and rest of them I would continue to talk about perhaps the upcoming webinars. So to start with, the most important feature that we've been waiting to release, that's called Email Verifier. We have released that in the current May 20 release. So what it means that you can validate and verify the email addresses that you have in your system, meaning the Salesforce system, whether it is a standard object or a custom object. We can validate or verify email fields that are on those objects. You can do it at a single object level or a single record level, or you can actually do it in bulk, meaning if you want to do it in bulk, meaning multiple records or multiple objects, you can actually do that as well. And the verification can be done at the record level, or you can actually choose the Salesforce list view, MassMailer list view, or even a campaign object, and you can verify all the email addresses. We also have a support to auto-verify an email from the Salesforce process builder through the Apex class that we have. I believe you should be able to just use that in the Salesforce flow as well. So basically, you can auto-verify an email address. A classic example could be that whenever a lead gets generated in your system, somebody entering an email in the form, you can actually validate that email address behind the scenes as and when it gets created in Salesforce. That is called auto-verifying an email address through the Salesforce process builder. We do track the verification status values at the object level in a custom related list called email verification status. That way you can actually report on it. We auto-suppress certain email verification status values, such as invalid, abuse, spam trap, do not email status. And we do have certain reports that you can actually leverage. So just talking about email verification, please note that it is not just a syntactical verification that we do. We actually go beyond that, meaning whether it is regular syntactical error, sometimes the domain may exist, but the email actually does not exist. Sometimes the email address could be just a catch-all kind of an email address, meaning info@abc.com, which is more like an alias, right? Accept all or a catch-all kind of an email address. Sometimes organizations create email address that is meant to catch the spammers. So any email address that you use for a certain domain, the email servers may just swallow it because they want to see who are the spammers. So that way you can actually validate the email address and figure out what kind of an email address is that, and based on that you can make a decision if you want to send email or not. As you can see here, that we auto-suppress certain email status values. So these are definitely not recommended to send emails that is invalid, abuse, spam traps, and do not email. We'll get to various status values in a moment. So when you actually verify an email address, we capture the verification status information such as uh, address, um, which is nothing but email address, and then the status. Again, I'll go through all the status values that we capture, but for an example, it is valid, invalid, kind of an email status values, and substatus. We also capture the substatus value. For each status, there could be a substatus. We capture that. And the account, same thing, the email address. And domain, what is the specific domain? And there's another one that's called did you mean? I actually do not know what it is, so I'll skip that for a moment. Domain age days, so how long the domain actually has been established. So when did the domain got purchased? Since then, how many days? So that's the domain age days. Free email, sometimes people actually purchase free email addresses. I mean, not purchase, create, like Gmail or Yahoo or AOL. These are not business email addresses, but these are like just the free email addresses. So it'll also denote if it actually is a free email address or not. MX found, so every email domain that you create, if MX is not created, MX record, meaning it is a domain naming server record, or domain naming setting record. You will have to define that MX record in order to receive email. If there is no MX record, that particular domain cannot even receive any email address. So that's the reason why it says MX found or not. And then MX record. If MX is found, then what is that record? SMTP provider, who is actually like the SMTP provider for this particular domain. It could be, whatever the ESP that they're using. First name, last name, this is all the personal information. Sometimes we may be able to find the first name, last name, the gender, city, the region, code, country, all the real address information for this particular email address, provided it has been created on the email server. And then what time this email verification status has been obtained, meaning what time it got processed. And some of the verification status values that not some, rather all of them that we capture, it is valid, meaning the email address is valid, invalid, meaning the email address is invalid, you should not send email. Catch all, meaning if we find out that this email address is more like an alias, meaning if we are able to send email, but it is not a real inbox, it is more like an alias, like info@abc.com. Those are called catch-all. Or even sometimes, as I said, email server may create an email address, which is kind of swallowing any email that you're sending out. Or it could be the server has been set up in such a way that any email address that you use on the domain also gets swallowed. So those are all called catch-all. Unknown, meaning we do not know about this particular domain and email address, whether it exists or not. Sometimes servers are configured in such a way that they don't reveal the information, or it could be just that we could not even find out for certain reasons, and we store that as unknown. And again, just to talk about how do we really get this information, we really do not send email to find out if it is valid or email. There are certain protocols and approaches that we use behind the scenes through the partner that we leverage to verify emails, which will provide this information. But please know that we never send email to find out if it is valid or invalid. Spam trap. Certain email addresses are created uh, to really identify the spammers. So these are done by the companies or organizations. So those are called spam trap emails. So there's a list of spam traps that we constantly identify and keep them in a global database. So it's never possible to identify 100% spam traps, but we get closer to that. Millions and millions of email addresses are used for used as spam traps. So we validate if it belongs to any spam trap email address. And abuse. So we should not send emails to certain email addresses who actually always complain about the emails that they're receiving. Those are more like people who are actually flagging your email as spam. So that is also stored in certain databases. So the abuse is kind of captured from the database of all the email addresses who keep reporting your email as a spam report. Do not email. So there are certain um, examples of um, providing the status where we say that do not email to this particular um, email address. So, for example, it is a disposable email, meaning there are certain servers where you can actually go create an email address that is disposable, meaning it is short-lived. It's lived only for, say, a couple of days or maybe a week, short-lived email address. So those are called disposable email addresses. We say do not send email to those email addresses. And substatus value, as we can see, some of the status values may have a substatus. So, for example, invalid, the invalid could be wherein which maybe the MX is not found, for example, right? That could be the substatus. And then various other substatus values for each status we may have. So we've not segregated all the substatus values into the respective status. Just kind of combined all of them together here. As you can see, it's a long list of substatus values. You will see that when you actually verify an email address, you will find the status and substatus on the record. So these are the suppressed verification status values in our system. So meaning if at all the verification status comes back as invalid, spam trap, abuse, or do not email, but even in do not email, these are the three ones that we capture. That is global suppression, disposable, and toxic. So if the substatus is one of these three substatus values for do not mail, then we auto suppress them. So basically, anything that you see in this list, they're auto suppressed by us automatically for you. So there are two new objects that you will see, and of course the UI where you can actually verify email address. So the two objects are email verification status and then email verification job. So the email verification status, it's a related list to every single object that you see in MassMailer. Meaning, if you enabled an object in MassMailer, it'll have the email verification status, the record as a related list. And similarly, the email verification job also is related to every object that is enabled in MassMailer. And it holds the statistics information, the verification job statistics information. And then email verification statistics. So this is an object that holds the whenever you submit an email verification job, we need to capture not only just the result, we also need to capture the stats. Let's say you wanted to verify maybe 100 of them, all of them, 60 could be valid and 40 could be invalid, kind of a thing, right? So we need to capture all those statistics, and that is captured in this. As you can see, how many were submitted, and then how many billable counts. So let's say you submitted 100, all of them, 10 are unknown, 90 we are able to validate. So the billable count becomes 90. And again, how many were actually valid out of 90, how many invalid, how many catch-all, how many unknown, how many do not email, how many abuse, and how many spam trap. So we capture all this information in the email verification job. And finally, we're also going to take a look at the email event sequence. So this is a new feature that we added, wherein which when you send out email to a campaign, previously the campaign member status used to get flagged with the latest email event that occurred. But now we actually change the logic in which the campaign member status gets changed based on the priority or the level. So this is the kind of hierarchy that we use, where let's say processed, it's at level 1, and delivered, dropped, bounced, deferred is level 2, and open is level 3, click is level 4, unsubscribe, group unsubscribe, spam report is at level 5. What it means, let's say you sent an email and then the recipient opened the email and they clicked on it. Now we change the status of the campaign member initially from process delivered to open, and then after they clicked on it, we also capture the click event and then store that campaign member status as a click. Let's say after some time, the recipient again opened the email. Now, previously, the campaign member status value used to go back to open because that was the latest status. But now in the latest release, we actually changed the logic in such a way that it would not flip back to open because click has got more priority than open. So basically, based on what level it is, that takes priority. For an example, if somebody unsubscribed to your email, we capture the email unsubscribe. Now, after some time, they again open the email. We won't flip it back to open just because unsubscribe has got a highest level, and we keep that highest level. If it already is, if it's already in that level, which is higher than the current level, then we do not flip it back. I think you will understand when I demo this feature. So I think I will be able to demonstrate only 2 of these features. And perhaps next webinar, I will talk about all other features that we may have released. All right, let's take a look at how email verification actually works. Just to show you, there are 2 like email verify status. That is the new tab that you see, and also you would see verification jobs as well. That's not added here in this particular. Verification jobs is right here. So the verification jobs is actually another tab where we capture all the verification jobs that you've done. As you can see here, every job has got its own statistics: total submitted, valid, invalid, do not email. All these values are captured. And similarly, verify status will also have all the status values that are captured right here. And again, once you drill down to a verification job, you will actually see the related email verify status values right there. Okay, so let's take a look at the way you can actually verify any email address. So for an example, this is your contact. So this has an email address. I know this is valid, right? And if you want to verify this particular record, you would actually go here and then select email verify button. Seems like it's not added. Good that I'm actually demonstrating. Just in case if you already use MassMailer and then you upgrade it to the latest version, you will have to configure the page layouts to add the button on the specific object layout. So I did not find the object. I did not find the button on the contact object. Let's just go and take a look at the page layout for contact. And if you're familiar with Lightning, it's quite easy to go to the object manager from setup. And then I go to MassMailer verify, mobile action, MassMailer verify. So since I'm using Lightning, you will have to add that button there. And then via MassMailer, does it exist? Okay, it exists. All right. Let's just go check the related list as well. So it seems like we have the verify status. That's good. You can see the verify status and the verification jobs. These two are the related lists. And in search layout, let's take a look. I want to make sure that we also, okay, sorry, I forgot to save. Just go save this. And then just go to search layout and let's make sure that we have the verify button. So this is for the sake of verifying in bulk. So I'm adding that button, MassMailer verify, in the search layout. And if you're using Classic, again, it would be similar to what you see. It may not be the exact same thing. So if you're in Lightning, sometimes some of the users may switch to Classic. It's always better to add these buttons both in Classic and Lightning search layout mode. So now that we have added the button, I'm going to go back to the contact record here. Now you can see this button called MassMailer Verify. So if I click on this, that'll take us to a page where you can actually select you can see the current object. It's asking what email field you want to validate. So I'm going to select the email field, the standard email field. We do display other email fields that you have if you want to validate those email fields as well. And there are other options of you can also validate the parent object or even the child object. If you actually have anything, like meaning if you have a parent object that you want to validate, you can select any of them. I mean, these are may not be the right ones. So, for example, if you have an account object that's a parent, provided it has an email address, you will be able to validate. And similarly, the child object as well. So if you have any child object that you want to validate, for example, case, you will be able to go to the case from the current object. That's an example. I think if you navigate from account, if you want to validate all the contacts in that account, you will be able to select an email address and then validate all the contacts for a single account if you wanted to do it that way. So basically here, I selected the current object, which is contact. Contact object is what we came from. And I've selected the email field that I want to validate. And then we also have an option here, do not include records verified on or after, meaning let's say you know that this would have been verified, maybe a month ago. And if you don't want to re-verify, so then we have an option where it says don't include those records verified on or after a certain date. That's actually very useful if you're doing it in bulk. Let's say you're filtered maybe 2,000 records, and all of them you do not know which one got verified recently. So you can pick and choose. Let's say your threshold is 3 months, and if anything got verified within 3 months, you don't want to verify them again. You can put that date there. That way we can skip those records. So that's kind of a handy tool. So once you selected this, all you need to do is just submit, and then it goes to the backend engine. It validates the email address, and then it stores that verification information back onto the contact record. You can see that it is showing that it's one has been submitted, one valid, and then one billable count we are able to find out. And other information just in case if those are, let's say if it's anything is invalid, shows that it's an invalid. The job status is completed and it is related to this particular contact. So if you go to this contact record, you would actually see the verify status. You can see it here, and then verification job status as well for this particular contact. And now I'm actually going to go update this record just to show you how we capture the invalid. So let's just say Siva1 and then save. Now I know that this particular email address is invalid. So I would just go verify this. And then capture email and then submit. You can see that it shows invalid. So if I go back to the particular contact and we can open up the status values and see both of them. You can see the status is invalid and substatus is mailbox not found. And that's how we got the invalid. And let us take a look at the one that is valid. So you can actually look at the details that we captured. So basically we looked at, we are looking at the verified status values here. It is showing, it is actually storing the address, email address, and the domain age, how long the domain has been there, and what is the status, substatus. Is it a free email or not? Gender is not stored, so email server does not have the gender information, so it's not showing that. And then it is showing the MX record where it is hosted. So MassMailer is, we use Google G Suite, so it is showing the MX record of that. MX record found. SMTP provider, we use G Suite, so that's why it's showing the G Suite. And then first name, last name. So we are unable to get that, so it's not there. And then account. So basically, Siva at massmailer.io. Siva is nothing but the actual email address, right? Not the domain, just what is the actual account, meaning Siva is kind of stripped off from the actual email address. That's the account. And then, and this is just a Salesforce contact and case and what time it got processed, right? So this is the information that we capture when you actually validate. Now, if I go back to the other status values that is invalid, it will have similar information, just that it shows the substatus saying that it's mailbox not found. Since it's invalid, it also stores that information right there. And now if you go back to the actual contact, we also have the verification job that we captured, right? And then this has been added to suppression list, as you can see. Now that we have the wrong email address, that is nothing but invalid. So as I said before, If it is invalid suppression, if the status is invalid, we store that into the suppression list automatically for you. That way you don't have to really add them on your own. So it is auto suppressed. So we take the certain status values as invalid, right? And let's say we capture, I'm going to make the email address to something which is more like a common email address, right? Like hello at massmailer.io now. And then let's go change this now. And then let's test it. MassMailer verify. Let's see what kind of verification status do we get since it's an alias. And then submit. Okay, so it is giving the valid status, right? It's not a catch-all. So basically, since it's an alias kind of a thing, meaning it's not the, if you send an email to hello at massmailer.io, it's the way we have defined this is a kind of a group in G Suite. So it is giving that email address the status value as valid status value because it is a group. But certain email address that you have that you see, like such as info or sales, those may or may not be created as a group email address. It could be something which is more like, accept all status, wherein which the email is like nobody's actually looking at that email address, but it is actually created on the server so that everything gets followed. So those are not recommended. It's not that we suppress them. We do not suppress those if the status is accept all, but those are not recommended to send because it will actually affect your email deliverability. So that is the only status value that is accept all or catch all status value that we do not recommend to send email, even though we do not suppress, auto suppress. The reason why we do not auto suppress is because you can still send email to info@abc.com. There's no harm, but if you are trying to send prospecting emails, especially, we do not recommend you to send emails to them. But if it is like a business purpose that you know that you have to send email and you know that they receive it, somebody responds to that email address, that's fine. As long as somebody is getting copied on those email address and they're responding back, you're fine to send those emails, provided kind of a transactional kind of emails and not like prospecting emails. But if it is a prospecting emails, catch all status value, we do not recommend. You will have to filter them on your own. We do not suppress them. That's on you. Just to kind of let you know. Okay. So in other ways to validate email address, you can actually go to any lead or any other object, for an example, and then you should still be able to validate. So as long as that object is supported in MassMailer. For an example, this is lead, and you will see the email MassMailer verify button there, and you can validate. And similarly, if you actually want to validate from a list, let's just go type in leads. And then you selected any list view here, an example, all leads. And if you want to verify all these email address values, again, I'm missing that button, as you can see. I did not add it to the lead layout. again, it's good to go back to the page layout and then add it. It's a good exercise to demonstrate this. So you go to the object manager. You don't have to do this all the time. This is just a one-time setup whenever you install or upgrade to the latest version. So you go to the search layout for the specific object and go to the default layout under search layout and make sure that you add the MassMailer Verify so that it actually shows up when you're selecting a list view. And similarly, if you're using Classic, you would want to add this because some people may switch to Classic. So you want them to see the button. So edit the list view and then add that button called MassMailer Verify, and then you're good to go. So now if I refresh this, all leads. Now I would see this button called MassMailer Verify. So if I selected this particular button, it is actually gonna verify and validate all of them. You can also pick and choose if you don't want to select all. So when I did this, when I clicked on that MassMailer Verify, and it shows the same thing. There's no change in the UI. It's the same UI. You select that email field and then submit. That's how you actually validate all the email addresses. So I'll just go ahead and submit because there's not that many. Sometimes it may take time. It is not going to be instantaneous. So if you are submitting, say, 10,000 records to validate, it'll take time. So we won't be able to give you the overall status values immediately, but it may take half an hour, an hour. I do not know. It all depends. So as you can see, we got the valid status for all of them, and you can actually see by going to the related list right there, what is the respective email address that got verified, and if you drill down, you will actually see the respective lead and navigate. So everything is kind of interrelated. That's kind of an easy thing. And now if you actually wanted to pick and choose specific list of objects from a list view, you can do that from here again. Let's say you want to select maybe handful of them, right? And then just say MassMailer Verify. Again, it'll go back to the same screen where you will select the email field, and then you can submit, and that will validate only the objects that you've selected, the two records that you selected, and it'll store the email verification status only for them. So this is kind of a handy tool if you want to do it in bulk, but you want to select the respective objects. And now you could do the same thing for any custom object as well. So I believe I may have some custom objects that are enabled MassMailer in the system. Let's take a look at it. The courses, the history object, it's invalid. So which means there is a button. I would have tried it before. So if this is a custom object that's got an email field. You can validate even custom object, and the flow is the same thing. You select the field, the email field, and then submit. Okay. I think this is a demo instance. I have not tried it, so I would have changed certain configuration here. But I think you kind of get a sense of how the custom objects get validated. It's the same thing, same flow. You just have to enable the custom object in MassMailer through MassMailer setup, and then you will have to add those buttons onto the page layout, and then you're good to go. Since it's a demo instance, I keep changing certain setup, and that's why it was giving error. Otherwise, you should be okay. for any custom object that you have that you want to validate. Okay. And the other ways you can do it is from MassMailer list view. So if you're familiar with MassMailer list view, and let's just open any of them. So let's see. So this doesn't have the button again. You could add them. So if you go to MassMailer list view, and then the page layout, and the button, since we are using the lightning, you would basically add that to the lightning actions. And now I go back here. Okay. And let's preview and make sure that we have some data. Okay, so there are a few records here, so I will just go cancel. Now, click on this email verify. Select the email field and then submit. So that basically validates the list view record. So that's the MassMailer list view record. And again, it'll store all the information and also the related email status, email verification status values would come in there, right? So it's the same flow. And finally, if you're in an outreach wizard, you would actually see that verify button. Again, we always recommend that you verify email addresses before sending any email. Otherwise, it'll take time to validate. It's not going to be immediate. So it doesn't make sense to kind of validate these email addresses while you're sending emails. So give it some time, assuming that you're doing it in bulk. You can also verify the email addresses here from Outreach. This is for a specific list view. We just provided this as a handy tool. It's the same thing though. You know, you're basically validating this particular list view in this flow. Okay. And finally, we also support campaign. So meaning if you have a campaign that is created that has got campaign members in that campaign, we also let you validate all the campaign members. In a way, you're validating the contacts and leads there, but you're actually able to do it both at the same time. So this particular campaign has 2 campaign members. And now let's hope that I've already added the button. If not, we can add that. Okay, seems like this doesn't have it. Let's just go quickly add it. So you basically go to campaign, again, do the exact same thing. Make sure that you have these buttons added onto the campaign object. So this is adding it to the classic and then verify. I'm gonna go add it there and then related list, MassMailer verification jobs, and then save it. Now, if I go back here, refresh, now you can see MassMailer Verify. So you just have to click that button. And then now that you're coming from campaign, the flow is a little different. So it is showing current object, but there are no fields to select, right? So campaign does not have an email field. So you got to assume that you're actually validating the current object that you're on. So campaign does not have an email field, but it has a child object that's called campaign member. So you will have to select this campaign member and then select the field. The reason why we have done that is it's a generic flow. We could have kind of validated what is the object that you're coming from, and we could have shown the child object straight away. That's something that we are planning to do, but sometimes customers may have email field created on campaign. Not that it's always going to be there, but we thought that it is better to provide the default flow, which is the current object. But if provided you have feedback given to us where you want to show child object, especially when you're coming from campaign, we are happy to do that and just have that validation and display the child object. But otherwise, we kind of understand that you're coming from campaign, so you got to select the child object and campaign member, and then select the email field, and then you submit. So that's how you actually validate the respective campaign members for a campaign. Again, the flow is the same, so we store the respective verification job that is related to the campaign. It'll have the verification status. These are nothing but the contacts or leads that you have, and it is related to this particular campaign, this particular job. You go back to the campaign from here, you would again see that it is related to this verification job right there. So everything is kind of interrelated. We do have the reports that are also captured under reports for email verify. So if you go to reports, you will see some of the standard reports that we have packaged under MassMailer reports folder. So you would see the verification job report. So if you pull up this report, you would be able to find out all the jobs, and then verify status report. So if you pull up this report, you will actually see the verification status report, which is kind of packaged. You can always modify, update these reports based on your needs, even though we do provide some the basic level layout, and you're free to kind of change this layout the way you want it. And then you can also schedule this to be sent. So you can do various things on this report, as you know, which is a standard Salesforce report. Okay. I think I already spent around 50 minutes talking about verify feature. I would rather postpone the other feature that I want to talk about. That's sequence of campaign member status, how we actually capture the campaign member status. So if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the chat box or speak up. I'm happy to clarify any questions that you may have.
Are not on the UI this one, right? Hi, Shiva. Good morning, yes, and this is David Roy from the UK. Thank you. It was certainly a very good webinar and very informative, very useful app and solution for email verification stuff. Thank you very much. I have no particular questions, but I do want to connect with you regarding an email that I may have sent you earlier. So that's what I want to say. Thank you. Cheers.
Oh, okay. Sure. Sorry, did you need more information about MassMailer or any further information that you need?
Yes, I do. I did. I sent you off an email. I probably left a voicemail as well for you in the morning, very early in the morning for you, which was my morning.
Okay, this morning. Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Probably, I understand that you may have gone straight onto the webinar as you began your day. But if you could have a quick look at your emails, then you'll probably see what I was referring to.
Okay, I'll do that.
Sorry
for that.
But
So
this one,
early in the
brilliant.
morning.
It's very clear, and it's I've got no questions on Verifier.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Ted. Thanks for the feedback. It's actually early in the morning for me. I generally start 6 o'clock in the morning. The webinar, that's the time. So I would certainly take a look at my emails and respond back, and perhaps we can schedule some time to talk further.
Yeah, that'd be good because I'm actually in a sort of urgent need for an answer for my questions, and also that will enable us to take some steps with the client that I'm working with. So that would be appreciated. Yeah,
perfect.
Thank you.
I'll do that. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Sorry to the other gentleman, Ned, I think it is, if I've said it somewhere, led it somewhere else. Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, David. All right. Wonderful. Okay. So again, as usual, if you need any further information, here is my contact information. So feel free to send an email to me or drop a note on our website. And this is our company email address, hello@massmailer.io. And we have this weekly webinar every Thursday at 9 a.m. PST. That becomes 6 a.m. for me in Hawaii, though. So I generally take early morning calls and I start early. So feel free to join the next week webinar again at the same time on Thursday at 9 a.m. PST. I probably would talk about the other features that I'm unable to talk today. The new features in MassMailer current release. I'll add a few more, not just the email sequence. I'll add a few more so I can spend maybe good 40-45 minutes on those features. Once again, thank you so much for joining the webinar, and have a great day or have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.